Welcome to this edition of the High Strangeness Factor, copyrighted on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I'm your host, Steve Ward. On the High Strangeness Factor, we have often experienced. I'm going to start again. I can do that. I'm in charge.
He's starstruck.
I am starstruck, but it's Eric. It's not Lee.
No, come on, man.
It's Eric. It's Eric.
You're among friends.
Absolutely, Eric.
It's that jazz musician.
That's right.
Hey, I'm a legend in my own mind.
Aren't we all? Okay. I'm glad we're having a bad time here. That's good. Welcome to this edition of the High Strangeness Factor, copyrighted on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I'm your host, Steve Ward. On the High Strangeness Factor, we have often explored the idea of high strangeness areas or portals. John Keel called them window areas, where many different types of unexplained phenomena have occurred. Several of our more recent shows on the High Strangeness Factor have focused on locations in southern Wisconsin, with an emphasis on the area surrounding Bray Road, which lies just east of Elkhorn. Today, we are going to explore what may be the very epicenter of the phenomena, which includes UFOs, cryptids, and other inexplicable manifestations. Brandy, welcome back as co-host.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
And it is nice to have you back because you and I have done several of these shows together. So it's kind of nice to have this continuity. And I'm not going to say too much here, but people should, if I wish they would go back and listen to some of our previous shows, because we've had the Bucks County team on before. We've had the reveal of their experiences around Bray Road. And also we had Donna Fink on, who ran the Beast of Bray Road conference and also has had her experiences. So that would give a certain amount of continuity to what we're going to be talking about tonight. But of course, it all started innocently with you and I cruising down Bray Road one day and running into these vehicles pulled off the road, which you're not supposed to do. And it was great. It was serendipity really struck because we struck up a great friendship with the Bucks County team, and the rest is history. But let me bring in the Bucks County people right now. And now one of them is not here quite yet, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. Eric Mentel, Dominic Sattel, and Ellen Collins are all investigators and researchers for Bucks County Paranormal Investigates. Eric is a jazz musician. Dominic is a mechanical estimator and business owner, and Ellen is a paralegal working for a real estate firm. They have all had a lifelong interest in the unexplained and the paranormal. Eric runs a unique tourism business and TV show called Bucks County Paranormal Investigation. Dominic joined the team in 2018 and is a spirit medium and helps the team understand just what they might be up against during their investigations. And Ellen represents the Wisconsin branch of BCPI. Eric features the videos on his TV shows, which are featured on Amazon, Fire, Roku, and Apple TV, through Princeton Television every Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, and on Service Electric TV2 in the Lehigh Valley in over 66,000 homes every Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Welcome, Bucks County Paranormal.
Thank you, Steve. Good to be here again.
And Eric is here, and Ellen is here at the moment. We expect Dominic to be showing up momentarily.
Mm-hmm.
And now I want to introduce our special guest. But first, I have to move this little box out of the way that covers up the print. You can tell I'm a professional. Lee Hampel is a mathematician and taught mathematics for 35 years in Illinois. He purchased a farm in southern Wisconsin in 2007 and began farming in 2011. In 2016, Linda Godfrey wrote another book in her series about strange cryptids, which had started with the Beast of Bray Road, which chronicled the mysterious sightings of an upright canid, the Dogman, which people were starting to report seeing along Bray Road in the 80s and 90s, but which has apparently been seen much earlier and not just confined to southern Wisconsin. In that 2016 book, Monsters Among Us, she describes some of the high strangeness that was occurring on Lee Hampel's farm located near Bray Road. Strange mists, unexplainable lights, UFOs, undocumented footprints, and even strange animals. Lee's an example of someone living his life and going about his business and then being forced to experience the extraordinary. Approaching the phenomena in a rational and scientific manner, he has recorded and documented the events and used an array of cameras placed all around the property to try to capture as many of the unexplained manifestations as possible. He has been featured in the Small Town Monsters DVD, The Bray Road Beast, and more recently, he was interviewed on the Bucks County Paranormal Investigates YouTube video called Bray Road Alive and Well. Lee, welcome to the High Strangeness Factor.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Very enjoyable. Thank you.
I really appreciate it. As people know that have listened to the show, Brandy and I attended the Beast of Bray Road conference. And that night, we went to your barn and you showed us about 2 hours worth of the most incredible photographs. And I'm going to quote Eric Mentel that he says on the YouTube video. He says, Lee, we were just blown away by those images. And for those that may not know, could you tell us how this all started for you? I mean, you're a working man, you're working the land, and the last thing on your mind are the things that you've experienced in the last several years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it was kind of, I guess you'd call it just put in my lap. And, I had not any interest in the paranormal or in cryptids or Bigfoot over the years. I was a math teacher and I was, teaching. And then after I retired from math teaching, then I got into a small farm in Illinois, and we got some horses, and my wife and I and our son. And then I purchased the property, like I said, near Elkhorn in 2007, so that I would have a steady hay crop, and we could feed our animals from that farm. Then I did not start farming there until 2011. I was farming down by at my mother's farm at that time, and then I had to move up to Elkhorn. I farmed for 2 years and had no idea that I was farming in a Beast of Bray Road or a cryptid area until 2013, when two of my neighbors helped me bale hay in September 2013, and they started telling me about the werewolf that was living back on my property, my farm.
What was your reaction when, I mean, somebody tells you, hey, by the way, buddy, there's a werewolf on your property?
I mean, you're so full of your eyes are brown. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what are you talking about? Actually, my youngest son, he in 2011 told me that, Dad, there's supposed to be some crazy animal up on your farm up by that area. And I go, yeah, when I see it, I'll let you know. And other than that, I had no idea. And I didn't pay attention to him either. I just said, what are you talking about? And they started telling me about the local farmers that had seen it, and his wife and local farmers. I knew those people, and they were down to earth, honest, and hardworking farming people and in a farming community. And I go, what? And so I started doing some experiments. I found a raccoon on the road, and I put it out in my fence line, and strange things started happening immediately.
Let me interrupt you for just a second. Dominic, are you here now?
I am here.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Dominic Sattel.
That's it. The real Beast of Bray Road when I'm hungry.
That was supposed to be the reveal at the end, Dominic. Thanks a lot.
Oh, I'm sorry. Spoiler alert.
Okay, Lee was just telling us we already did the introductions, so and we also got through my technical difficulties, and
you forget to hit record again.
No, that would have been the least of my problems.
So
But anyway, Lee has started to tell us what it was like when he first started farming, and the locals started telling him, you got some kind of a creature on your property. Go ahead, Lee.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I put out a raccoon and put it down in very tall grass on my fence line, and went back a couple of days later, and here it had been basically cut from its under its chin to the stomach area, and all the innards were gone, and it was down in this 3 foot tall grass, and there was no path into it. I mean, that's the part. There's no path. So the only thing I could think could do this would be a hawk. Hawk could fly in, maybe with his talons, tear it and take out the innards.
Was the tear something like a surgical cut, or was it ragged, or?
It looked very clean. Yeah, it looked clean. But I was thinking maybe talons could do it, but it looked very, very clean. But then 2 or 3 days later, it's out of that hole or nest. And again, there's still no path into it. The grass is not knocked down at all. And here the raccoon is 15 feet away or so, and put into a little pile. I go, okay, a hawk can't do this. And that was just the beginning of now 8 years of 1 to 3 cameras out, over 120,000 pictures on my computer, and
wow.
The weirdness of that field is beyond explanation right now.
Well, it's just that I imagine, I've talked to some other people. Other people have this kind of stuff actually going on their property, but I don't know of anybody else that has approached it in a scientific and rational manner as you have, and tried to document all this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was very unfamiliar with the paranormal world. I approached it as an experiment, as a scientific situation, and I tried to have repeatable experiments as I tried different experiments with the 18 roadkill deer I put out. And I devised a large number of experiments, really, and that's how I approached it. I was not familiar with the paranormal world. I had no knowledge of it. I had basically dismissed it as just not part of my world. I had no interest in it, and so I approached it as, okay, I'm going to have an explanation, a scientific explanation for what is occurring on my property, and I'm still looking for that scientific explanation. So,
well, we saw your photographs, and on them are timestamps, so that when you see things like these mists crop up, we see things like you've put these carcasses have been out, and they have literally disappeared with no footprints or drag marks, and then you can see the timestamp to see that not all that much time has gone by in some cases.
Absolutely, 16. I put out 18 deer. 16 of them were carried away during when there was mist there, or the camera just stops working. I should have dozens and dozens of pictures of the cryptid or whatever is picking up these 150-pound deer and carrying them away. The tracks, many times there's no tracks in that area, but then if I do move away from that area, I'll find tracks, 15, 20 feet away, and I've tracked it a half mile. The two main type of tracks I have is the 5-toed 7-pad track, which no canid in the world has, and then I have a fist type track that is not even the professionals or experts in the track area will not even acknowledge that it's a track, but yet I have tracked it for a track line for half mile. I've seen both of those tracks hundreds and hundreds of times. And right now I'd have to look at my log, but I think I'm about 27, solid track lines with either the 5-toed 7-pad or the fist type track. So in snow and in dirt. So.
We'll get more on that, but what kind of a time frame was it that did were you the one? Did you contact Linda Godfrey?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I was in. I put out the cameras, and I started to get, many strange phenomena. I've been an outdoorsman. I grew up on a farm, and I hunted until I was in my 20s, and then I just did more outdoor activities, and so these things were occurring, and I did start to look up on Google and what is going on, and then Linda Godfrey's name popped up, so I emailed her, and because she had written books, and emailed her and told her what some of the situations, occurrences, weirdness on my farm. And so then we met for a breakfast, and then we went out to the farm, and and after we went out there and walking around, and the smell was there that particular day. It's a real strong dog skunk urine smell that is really putrid, and we got out of the truck, and I said, that smells here, and that day was there was a mist there that we could not see. It was a bright sunny day, but then we got in the truck and started to look at the SD card, and here I had walked right through the mist, and half of my body was not visible, and
Wow.
yet there was it was a bright, clear, sunny day.
Yeah, we remembered seeing that in one of your photographs, and
Yeah,
that's got to be. I mean, you already had several photographs of different kinds of mists creeping in, and it seemed like there was something more than just atmospheric conditions. But that must have been a little bit creepy to think that it was there and you couldn't see it at all.
correct. That was Linda's first time at the farm, and she was like, "Oh my God, what do you have here? What is this?" And
She must have been like the kid in a candy store. This is like a laboratory for Linda Godfrey.
yeah, it was. That's a good explanation. It was. She was like, "Oh my gosh, whoa, wait a minute. Now we were right here, and we had to reenact it again, even though the smell was still there,
Ugh.
and we went through the motions again. I got out of the truck to see if the carcass had any odor to it, which it did not. It was in, I think, November, and so then we get back in and we look at the SD card, and the mist had been there for about 4 hours before we got there, so it had been there quite a while.
Wow.
But it's
Oh,
not
Wow.
it's not a mist you can
That's
see.
amazing.
I've been in the mist 3-4 times, other times, and I've been right in front of the camera, 15 feet in front of the camera, and you can't see me, even though the camera does trigger sometimes. It's the camera triggers. I get thousands of false triggers, but the I think we I've done some research, or a lot of research on now, but cloaking is a definite possibility
Mm-hmm.
for the cryptids that are out in my field. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Lee, do you
Wow.
recall when you are smelling that odor? Um, do you seem to recall that happened at the times when you had recorded mist on the cameras? Like, are they found in combination with each other? Is the mist creating the odor, or was the odor present at other times too?
The odor. I mean, the odor I've been in, just walking across my field, and
Hmm.
I was going out in 2016 to pick up a tractor that had been. We were baling hay that day, and not all the tractors got up to my barn, and I was walking out to pick up that tractor about 7:30 at night, a 1947 Alice Elmer C. And as I approached the tractor, that smell hit me, and I was out in the middle of my field, and so the area it was coming from, I call a wetland. It is a small wetland area, and so I jumped on the tractor, and I'll drive right. So I can get through that wetland, with a tractor, and it was July 2016, and so it wasn't real wet, and so I threw it in gear and started up, and I headed for the wetland. I said, I'm gonna chase this thing out of there, because as I was approaching the wetland, the smell was getting stronger, And I thought, boy, I'll chase him right out of there, And as I got probably 50 yards from the wetland, then my tractors basically quit running and started chugging, and I had to throw it in first gear and pull the choke out full, and I said, boy, I don't want this thing to stop. So so I turned and headed towards my barn down a lane that.
Wow.
What when you first started getting, I know you started out getting, you knew that something weird was going on the property, and people were telling you about this creature. What were the first photographs that were coming in that looked really bizarre? What were the first things you saw? Hello?
Did we lose him?
I don't
Maybe.
know.
Hello, Lee? He shows being there.
Yeah.
Lee, I think we lost you for a minute.
He's in a portal.
Mm-hmm.
I guess so.
Very well could be.
Let's see. I can text him. He shows up on the. Okay.
He's not muted.
No, he's not muted. But he looks like he should be coming through loud and clear.
Yeah.
Boy, I hate to hang up and try to call again with all the trouble we had before.
Well,
Let's see.
if you do that, if that happens, then I can invite him back in.
But I think he's trying to break through. Maybe it's just a cell phone problem. Huh.
He's in a mess.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but he's not down at the farm now. He's in Illinois. He's at his house. So.
Yeah, but maybe it followed him back. Remember, we talked about that before.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Because those orbs followed him in his truck, didn't they?
Yeah, well, they were hanging around the truck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, now he's gone.
Yeah, he was.
You want to try to call him back, Steve?
Yeah, let me see. Can I hang him up here? Oh, he's gone. Right.
He's
okay.
gone.
Okay. Let's see. Let me try. Okay. Normally.
This is where we could use some jazz music, Eric.
Exactly.
While he's waiting for Lee, maybe can you guys talk about, did you experience any odors when you were there?
Well, I was going to say that. No, I didn't notice any smell there whatsoever. Did you, Dom?
No, I didn't notice any smells either, but definitely there was a presence there. And I mean, when we were standing around the baited area and we heard the howls and all, the smell may have been coming, but I think we got out of there before we actually smelled anything.
And there was no.
But I mean, when we were there, when we were down there earlier in the day, there was a smell. Do you remember that, Eric? There was a smell, but it wasn't. It was over. It was over where he had the UFO sightings, like behind his shooting area.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It was over there where we were playing in the corn, and
right.
That's where the smell was, and that was way earlier in the day before.
Well,
so I mean, that's a possibility.
We had the thing that I always say that.
Here,
there. Okay, great.
Am I back?
Lee, yes. Okay, good deal.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know what happened. Well, somebody called me.
We don't know what happened. You should have heard the awful things they were saying about you when you were gone.
Oh, man. Well, my ears are burning.
Hey, Lee, it wasn't coming from me. It was from Steve.
we were talking about how Eric's usually in a fog, but we still see him too.
Now we've got two Lee Hampels up there.
I was gonna say, Steve, I was gonna say though, that the thing that that really got me with Lee's account of this whole thing was that the fact that with the raccoon and being in the tall grass and the grass was not disturbed, that whole thing right there is just amazing because how is it going to get out of there without something dragging it in and out of there unless it's picking it up?
Right.
we just talked about, now Brandy, you had just mentioned about the odor, and Dominic just mentioned, and I had totally forgot about this. We had smelled a similar odor over by the shooting area, not down where the bait area is, but where you know that where I'm talking, you know where I'm talking about, Lee, obviously.
The shooting area is the wetland. That's where I was trying to drive my tractor into.
Oh, well, there you go.
Wetland is right by the shooting area.
Makes sense then.
Yeah,
Ooh.
that makes. Yep,
Yeah.
that's it. Amazing.
Wow.
So what I was asking before was I think when we lost you was what were some of the early images that stopped popping up?
So that makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Lee.
the smell has been over in the Northwoods, the west fence line area, and in the wetland areas, and the
Wow.
shooting range area. The smell's been that whole area all over back there. Yes.
And like Steve just asked you, what kind of images were you getting at first off? What were some of the first images that were like bizarre?
Well, so my brother had an older Moultrie camera, a 2000. This was 2013, and so he said, "Well, put a raccoon out and set it up, and we'll see what's moving the raccoon." And I said, "Okay." So I took his camera and I put it out there, and I found another raccoon on the road, and I put it in the grass just on the edge of my field, really, just in the grass a little bit, and went back there 3 or 4 days later, and that raccoon was also moved 15, 20 feet. I mean, the cryptid or the beast, he has a propensity for just moving animals. He moved a badger 15, 20 feet and put in a little pile. So, so then I looked at his SD card and I said, "Well, your camera's no good. The raccoon was moved, and there's no pictures of what's moving it, you know."
Wow.
And so then I went and bought a Tesco and another. That's the first roadkill deer, which actually Fred found, but anyway, it was on 12 there. Anyway, then the mist came on that Tasco camera. It took a picture of the mist for 6 hours, and then the deer had been during that process. The deer had been carried and dragged under my barbed wire fence, and then carried. I tracked it for a half mile. One of my helpers and we tracked the fist print and the 5-toed 7-pad guy for a half mile while they were carrying the deer. That was a smaller deer, it was like a 75-pound deer, but still, deer are hard to carry. They're gangly. They you know, but they're hard to carry. Yet this this beast has picked up 150, 200-pound deer and carried them away, which is tremendous strength.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now,
Wow.
you have seen this thing. What was the what were your emotions? What did you think when you actually saw one of these things after hearing about them?
Well, I've seen it twice now, with proof of prints, both times. The first time was May 5th, 2017, and I was pulling out of my driveway, and I looked down 2 telephone poles down, and there was next to the road, was about 3 feet off the ground, was two very luminous red eyes, or orangish red eyes, looking at me. And I knew immediately that that wasn't a coyote or a deer. I've seen them often up there, and they have yellow or greenish eyes. And so I threw my brights on, and then that particular time, that he went down an embankment as I was approaching him, and he was looking over the top. That embankment is 4.5 feet tall. It was May 5th, and the grass was a foot tall on top. And he's looking over the top at me, and I go, "Whoa, okay." And so then I tried to angle my lights towards him. And I guess I shouldn't say him, I guess. But anyway, and instantly, I mean, so fast, it was like 15, 20 feet out in the field, and I turned and just saw one luminous orangish red eye. Instantly, blink of the eye, he's another 15, 20 feet. And he turned again with just one. I just saw one eye, and then he disappeared. and I could not see any body. I should have seen body. I thought for sure I would see body, but I had a dream about it, but I could not see any body that I could really visualize during that time. So
now you started finding tracks, and there are cases where you would find them as if they started in the middle of nowhere, right in the middle of the snow, and then went off. And I'd like you to tell us what your brother Fred said was the explanation at first.
Yeah, just a little bit to finish up that. Then my youngest son did come up, and we went over to where I had seen the red eye, and there was the 5-toed 7-pad track was next to the just at the edge of the field, and we could not find any other tracks, but there was a lot of debris, but it was able to easily jump, I think 15-20 feet, land, and instantaneously jump another 15-20 feet. But the tracks have many interesting aspects about them. One is that they'll just be, I'll be going across my field, my snowmobile, or walking, and the tracks will suddenly start. They'll be, it'll appear that the 2 feet are landing parallel to each other, and then it walks off, and there's no tracks before that anywhere. I'll look 200 feet around it, and there's no tracks before it. And the tracks are very noticeable, very different from coyote or deer. There's no drag marks. They're very no straddle, and they are 2 to 4 feet apart. So that's they're very noticeable. Yeah, and then you'll be following them and going along, and they just suddenly stop. I mean, they just stop, and there's no other tracks in the snow. I mean, you could, I know it can jump a long distance, but I've seen, peruse the area, and there's no tracks that those tracks just stop, or they'll just start. And that's happened numerous times, and many people have seen that come out, to visit and look in it, and that's a common occurrence.
It's not uncommon in the literature where Bigfoot researchers sometimes in the middle of nowhere will find a series of footprints, and then all of a sudden they stop, and they've talked about it with other cryptids. Now, have you seen any other type of animal or cryptid on the property besides what we would call the dogman?
Well, I mean, the second time the first time I saw it was the 5-toed 7-pad trap. And then on May 11th of 2021, this year, during the daytime, I had a daytime sighting. I was checking my cameras, and I looked over in the neighbor's field, and they're a quarter mile away, and there was, I mean, it was a huge figure, and and I started taking pictures with my iPhone 11. And, there's an app called a game app that will give you the height, or give you the height of a animal, so that hunters can estimate how big the deer is, or whatever they're hunting. And my friend has that, and he looked on that, and at a quarter mile, the figure I was looking at was 6.5 to 7 feet tall, and the shoulders were 3 to 3.5 feet wide. And it looked that huge when I was looking at it. And the pictures are pretty good. But then I went over there. I called my brother Fred, and I said, stay on the phone, because I had no protection. And Eric and Dominic and Ellen know that, that this thing, it's huge, and it's getting scary. And I said, stay on the phone. I said, I'm going to walk over there. I want to see if there's tracks right next to that woods where it had gone in. And I said, I'll either become Wisconsin folklore, or I'll find some tracks. So he stayed on the phone, and I went over there, and there were the fifth type tracks. So the 2 creatures I saw were the 2 that I have most time I've seen those tracks, and but they were different. They were different, different tracks, and I think they're different creatures. I really think it's about five different cryptids I have out there. size of the tracks. The 5-toed 7-pad tracks. There's larger and smaller ones of that, and I think there's about 5 different cryptids that I have tracks for. So
now you've presented. I mean, you've tried to show this evidence to experts, the DNR and other track experts.
oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
And what did they tell you?
I met with the I met with the Illinois track expert. I contacted the DNR in Illinois, and I met with her. I showed her tracks, and she's basically said I was kind of making them up, you know. And I said, well, I have a number of them here, and you know, she basically finally said, I said, you know, I really need to know what animals making these tracks. It's on my farm by Elkhorn, Wisconsin. And she said, that's an unknown animal. I don't know what that is. And I said to her, I said, I put out a 200-pound deer. Do you want me to let you know if that deer's carried away? And she said, no. And it was carried away. So other track experts have said they're double hits. One animal has landed on top of another animal. That was an expert from Utah. But I mean, I've tracked it for half a mile, and there's not, you know, they're not all, you know, 2 different animals that angle across the one. And so,
who was the guy that said that it had to be somebody on stilts?
I won't use his name, but he's very well known. That was the 5th type track. And he said, that's not a track. He said, there's no track that can be like that. And I showed him the line of tracks, the pictures I have. And he said, anybody can go to Home Depot and get stilts and walk around on your property. I go, well, if they're walking around on my property in stilts through cornfields and carrying 200-pound deer, they're very talented individuals, and not be seen on the camera. I go, you know.
Yeah, right.
You know, I can just see Dominic rushing off to buy a couple of stilts.
Yeah, right.
yeah. They're very talented, and of course, then you know the line that I've used, and I don't know if I use it. You know, they always said, "I'm glad I was able to help you." You know.
Lee, just to clarify.
So Eric, I was going to say, Eric, I can't bring the stilts next time we go out there.
No. Just make sure you eat before the investigation.
Go ahead, Brandy.
Well, I just wanted to clarify all the tracks that you've seen. They're all from, you think, a 2-legged animal, or were some of them from an animal that might have been on 4 legs?
Boy, the majority, there'll be times I'll be tracking it and it'll be absolutely 2-legged, and I have, you know, 4-foot tracks, and no 4-legged animal can have steps 4 feet apart.
Right.
They make right angles. No animal can make right angles like that. No 4-legged animal. But then at other times I'll have front, what I call the front feet. They'll be their hand like they look like hands, and they'll go down on all 4. And when I saw it in May 11th, he dropped all 4 before he went into the woods. And he went into the woods on all 4. So sometimes, but majority of the time I find the tracks that they certainly seem bipedal.
Okay.
There's not the 4. I mean, I have coyotes out there, I have deer out there. I see their tracks, and they look like 4-legged animals. And
okay.
Let me just do my brief intermission here. You are listening to the High Strangeness Factor, copyrighted on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I am Steve Ward, and today Brandy and I and the Bucks Creek team are talking to Lee Hampel about the strange events that have been occurring on his farm. I know it's hard for us to convey the images. I mean, they're just astounding. But I'd like for us to try, all of us to try and describe some of these images. I've tried to do it before in a couple of previous shows, but Lee, the vast array of different things that are seen that you've captured. I mean, you have the strange mists, and even talking about that a minute, in Linda's book, she talked about this thing that I guess she called it kind of a portal, but had kind of an orange cast to it.
Yeah, yes, that was in January 2014, and it was an oval shape that occurred, and two of my cameras captured that, and through just that oval, um, that orange light was cast through that oval, and it did not go outside of the oval. There was a very sharp edge to it, and that was there for 20 minutes, and it certainly seemed like a portal. I mean, it was just a orange light that was coming through a large oval, and both two of my cameras captured that. And yeah, there's an edge to it. I mean, the oval has with a mist quality to it, I guess I'd say, because it's in front of a tree, and the tree is distorted during in that oval area, and then outside the tree is very clear. So it is, yeah, that's really interesting, that particular sequence of pictures.
Well, also, when you look at the book, The Hunt for the Skinwalker, I'm talking about the book and not the reality show by George Knapp and Colin Kelleher. The Shermans, they saw something up in the sky that had an orange cast to it, to where they saw things fly out of. And I know Linda speculated as to the possibility that there might be some kind of a connection there. They also tracked animals whose footprints disappeared. But one of the, I was looking at these photographs, and one of them you see kind of it's a metallic craft or something flying. It looks like a turtle shell, and it whips around this tree, and you can tell how long it takes to get around by looking at the timestamp. The one photograph, Lee, that just threw me for a loop. You look at it, and it's daylight. It's in the field. It's something that looks like a thin black rope or something, and it goes up in two humps, and then you move the camera over and said, "What's this?" And it looks like some kind of boxy machine-like thing. This stuff is just, and you're getting all kinds of. Sometimes they're far away. You're getting all kinds of strange UFOs, and sometimes you get strange lights. I mean, this is just. It's not just one or two things. It's like everything.
The orbs, I have probably 150 videos of orbs I've taken with with a nighttime infrared camera, and the orbs are coming. They play peekaboo, or they just disappear. And I've done experiments with them, and tried to chase them down with the truck, which I've got closer to them, and then they just disappear. Or I've had individuals walk through them, and they just disappear. And I have videos of all that. I have probably 150 videos of orbs that really exhibit a relationship to our world, even though they're only in the infrared world. You cannot see them with your naked eye. Although I have seen one orb come across the field of my naked eye. I've seen two shafts of light, even though I have thousands of pictures of shafts of light on my cameras.
And aren't some of them sort of refracted? I mean, they move in a way that's just not scientifically possible.
Well, they stop or start. There's either a source, or there's a receiver, because halfway down the picture, the light shaft will just stop. It'll be just an oval right there. It'll just stop. And my cameras are not good enough to stop light at 186,000 miles per second. And yet I have many pictures of the light shaft just abruptly stopping or starting. I'm not sure what it is. So it's got to be a source, or it's got to be a receiver of the light source at that point, because or it goes to, does it go through a portal? Does it go to another universe? I mean, my camera is not stopping the light. I know that. I'll tell you that. Yet the light shaft does stop.
For Bucks County, you guys, What since you've been out there and done that night investigation, are there other questions that have come up in your mind that you would like to ask Lee since you've been out there and seen it for yourself?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's hundreds of questions. I mean, you know, when I first, when we talked to Fred, by the way, Fred, Lee's brothers, Fred is a phenomenal guy, just like Lee is. And I mean, just talking to Fred and I'll never forget what Fred said. And we all know this. He said, this place changes at night. And man, I didn't know what he meant at the time, but then that night at the investigation, then we found out real quick. But I mean, what I always wanted to know,
we did.
Lee, do you feel when you're out there, do you feel any kind of fear? Do you feel like fearful to be out in the field?
I mean, I take precautions. I mean, you got your production crew. It was one of the many that I've been up in my barn, and they've come up at, they're going to stay out all night, and they'll be there at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock. And you're not the only production crew or group of people that came up early and said, "Whoa, well, you won't believe what happened out there." And I go,
Yeah.
"Well, I probably will, because
Yeah.
because that happens to every production crew that goes out.
Mhm.
They're asked to leave. One production crew came in, and I said, "What are you doing?" And it was like 10:30, and they said, "Well, we were asked to leave." And I go,
What?
"No, it's my property. There's nobody that can ask you to leave." And the gentleman looked at me, and he said, "It wasn't a person that asked us to leave."
Mm.
Wow.
And so they had
Yeah.
they said they had verbal communication, and it told them to please drive. And
Oh my
Oh
God.
man.
So,
Wow.
so
Lee, I gotta ask Lee, because you just said something earlier that I'm interested in, because Ellen had a dream as well, and you said you had a dream about the dog man. What can I ask you what that was about?
well, hundreds of, I mean, when I look at my pictures, and then and then I go to bed, I go, okay.
Hmm.
But the dream that I mentioned was that I had a dream that I reenacted or resaw the uh, the the one by the road with the orangish luminous red eyes.
Hmm.
And in the dream, I could see a tail, and I could see a body, a
Hmm.
figure. Um, and I called up a hypnotist, and I asked if I could get hypnotized and go back and reenact or revisit that experience. And could I be able to, maybe my mind, maybe in my mind, or maybe my eyes could see it. Of course,
Hmm.
my mind is interpreting what I
Hmm.
see, and
Right.
maybe my mind just said, "No, you're not seeing it." So, could it be embedded in my brain that the figure or the figure that there was a figure there?
Hmm.
And the hypnotist said that he wasn't experienced in that area, and that would be a very difficult area for a hypnotist to work in. I thought, but
Hmm.
um, but because what we see with our eyes and what we think we see, yeah, obviously are two different things. Our brain is interpreting what we
Hmm.
see, and
Right.
Right.
that's where the camera has no interpretation. The camera takes a picture of what's there,
Hmm.
and it does not interpret it. So it's much more solid evidence.
Absolutely. And Ellen, I don't know if you want to share a little bit of yours, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and it probably happened about a week after we left the site. And I had this extremely vivid, very colorful dream, as if I were there on the property. And uh, we were talking, Eric and Dom and I were talking about we wouldn't be able to hear the beast if it was coming up on the soft grass. We wouldn't be able to hear it. Well, in my dream, the beast did come up on the soft grass, and it came up right in front of me, and it was about 7 feet, about 7.5 feet. And it telepathically spoke to me. So no words, no nothing. And it told me to hold up my hand. It said, I will tell you everything you need to know. And so when I held up my hand, it just took its claw and touched the palm of my right hand. And I saw everything that it was going to do or everything that it wanted to do while it was here. And it was fascinating. It was just, and I can remember, you know, what it told me was going to happen. And it was just the most vivid dream, because I remember waking up in the middle of the night and I said, that did not just happen. You know,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not in Elkhorn right now. You know,
What did it share? What did it share?
well, it told me that they were there to propagate the species, that all of their females were dying, and that they were trying to find like a wolf substitute, or you know, wolves in the area, which are rare in Walworth County.
Yeah,
They're
very rare.
trying to find female wolves to help propagate the species. And he told me if I come back, he said he would show me what has happened while I've been gone. So very interesting that all of a sudden Eric and I said, we're going back, you know. And
Well, and it
Yeah.
just goes back. It just when Lee's having the dream, you're having the dream. It always I go right back to and now this is another story, but I go right back to the Betty and Barney Hill UFO abduction back in 1961.
right, when they
And
had their
they had this vivid dream together, which they didn't realize they were both having the same dream. And it turns out that they had the same exact dream and they had the same exact experiences happen to them, that they had been abducted and by extraterrestrials, or and that was the first time anyone ever heard about alien abduction, and that was September of 1961. So I always think there's always truth to that. And then again, Lee's talking about the property is a portal. I mean, he's got pictures. I mean, there were so many pictures. I didn't put as many pictures in there because I wanted to be respectful to Lee, because there's a lot of stuff there that he didn't want us to share, and I totally can appreciate that. But the ones I asked him that we could share are, I mean, they're phenomenal. And the other thing that really got me too was that, Lee, remember the picture of that you took of the creature in the field, and you could see the big black hump in the field?
You mean from May 11th?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So I'm thinking, you guys are seeing the track or the impressions that don't have a track. We talked to Tom Carey. Now, Tom Carey is an anthropologist. He's also talking about creatures known as knuckle walkers. But the thing is, with this creature, you've got, first of all, we don't know anything that's got a 7-pad track. So right there, it's right off the charts. But I'm thinking, what if the front paws, or he was on his knuckles, and that was what was making those impressions, and then the other, the feet themselves are the pads that you're seeing. So that might be
The fifth guy. I mean, he takes 3-foot steps, and I
yeah,
followed his track line just the fifth for a half mile.
right.
The front feet, their hand like of the 5-toed 7-pad. I had the DNR, Wisconsin DNR, come. I said, I have tracks here. Can you guys look at them? So they sent a guy out, and so we were looking at. There was a large number of tracks that day, and the 5-toed 7-pad track. He said, "Well, that's an abnormal coyote or dog. You got an abnormal dog out here." I said, "So all 4 of his feet are." Got the 5-toed 7-pad track. He said, well, what else would it be? And then we were going along, and then there was the front hands, which I call the front hands. I've cast those too, and they're large. And I go, okay, what about this then? And he puts his hands down, and he said, oh, that looks like a bulbous raccoon track. And I go, well, yeah, it's a big raccoon. I said, where's the rest of the tracks? There's only 2 here, and then there's 4 feet up. There's 2 more. That's it. He said, oh, we're just missing them. So I think absolutely, I think it's 2 different animals. So Eric,
Wow.
or creatures, whatever creatures.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just, and I know Dominic too was like, and Ellen, we were all like, just, I mean, that night, it was just unbelievable because we just had that trifecta of activity, seeing the UFO go over. Then we heard the howls, and then we saw the mist. And I noticed it first because it was just kind of like a general mist. And it's hard to see on the video, but it was definitely there. And you could definitely see that. What gets me too is, and you're talking about the cloaking technology. Oh, and that's definitely the hair samples is what blew me away too. There's no medulla there. I'm thinking to myself, could this possibly be like some kind of translucent creature that it's there, but you just don't see it?
Right. Right.
That's a
By the way,
possibility.
let me stop you for just a second,
Yeah.
and we'll go back to Lee. Eric, describe the UFO again. It was more than just a light in the sky. Describe what happened, and then we'll get back to Lee.
I'll let Dominic tell you that because he's the one that spotted it.
Okay. All right, Dominic.
All right. So when we got out to the field, it was overcast and cloudy, but when we got out to the field down to that area, the skies were crystal clear. It was open, and you could see all the stars. And I looked up, and I was kind of baffled by it because we were up at the barn, and it was overcast. And I started looking up. I started looking at the stars, and all of a sudden, I see this just a bright white light. No other flashing, not like a plane, anything like that. And I said to Eric, "What is that?" And he looked up, Ellen looked up, Scott looked up, and Scott was filming it. And it just started moving. And as it was moving, it moved faster than a plane, and it was heading in one direction towards a plane. And we're all just kind of baffled at it. All of a sudden, it made a 45 and disappeared. And I mean, a plane just doesn't disappear like that. So, yeah. I mean, we were all just kind of like, what was that? And I mean, we were all just scratching our heads.
And that just looked like it was directly over the property.
It was right over the field. I mean, we looked straight up at it. When I saw it, I was straight up at it and was like, what is that?
No sound whatsoever.
Not at all.
Yeah. And when I, when we both saw it, and on my camera, it comes and you could hear me saying, "Oh yeah, that red dot." But on my camera, it's when things are trying to focus on something, it'll outline that object in red. That's why I was saying red object, but it was actually a ball of white light. And now that was the one thing. And then right after that, we heard the howl. I mean, one in the distance, and then another one. And the third one was just so unnerving. And that's what got us because, and I mean, even though we didn't leave right away there, but we heard it. But the thing is, Scott heard it. Scott, and God bless Scott, because he was just filming everything. He was, right there, filming everything. He heard it. And it was so loud, guys, that we had wireless mics on. And it was loud enough that our wireless mics picked it up. And they're small mics. So it just picked it up. It was that loud. So, I mean, today, I still talk about it. And I still get chills about it, and it was just one of the most amazing experiences we've ever encountered. And, and having Lee and talking to Lee, the thing is, when we go back, Lee, you're coming out with us.
No, you guys, I think there's a different attraction. I think you guys should take the flare gun, but let me hit just a second on the howl. Let me have a side project on that. So on your video, then I took it over to my neighbor because you guys know that I have my barns there, and then there's actually 3 dwellings within, probably a football field, 200 yards or so. And so I took it over to my one neighbor, and I said, "Here, the production crew was out in my field, and they heard this howl." And so I played it for him. He goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "That thing's been around here about the last 6 weeks." And this was about a week after you guys. Well, what the video came out in October, right? October.
Yeah, on Halloween.
Yeah, so probably 2 or 3 days after that, actually.
Wow.
And I had noticed, that my other neighbor, which is the next house over, on my cameras, that they had their lights on all night, and that was
Mm.
kind of strange. And I said, so you've been hearing this howl? He goes, yeah. He said the last 6 weeks that thing's been out here, and he said, Wayne, or the next house over, he said they put up all those outside lights. And I go,
So,
oh, that's what's on my camera. So they leave them on all night. He goes, oh yeah. He said,
oh man. Well, that was
so
the thing that was the one thing that we saw. I mean, we saw that there were lights on, and we knew that they were the farmers' lights. But when we heard that, and then we panned over to that part of the area where we had, and that again, I think we were going over to the wetlands, right, guys? That was
Yeah, I
where
think so.
that's where it was coming from. And you could see that there were eye shine, and the eyes were dancing in the tree line there. You could definitely see there's a farmer's light on the side. That's a solid light. But
yeah,
the other two lights, and the way I was able to freeze frame it, it only looks like one light, but there was actually two there.
Yeah.
And that was spooky. And that's when I said, and that's when I had the feeling, I said, look, we got to get out of here, because just it was, and like Ellen said, it was stalking us, and it was coming for us.
Yeah, it's coming towards us.
You know, I would like to go on an expedition. I would like to test my metal out there some night, but I mainly just want to be able to say I lasted 5 more minutes in Bucks County.
I think they were about 35 minutes.
Good luck. I want to
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah.
Well,
Dominic was going, what did you get me into, Mintel?
well, Brandy, tell us what happened with the lights in your truck.
Yeah, I may have mentioned this before, but we were looking at the photos in the barn with Lee, and one of the people in our group said, "Hey, somebody's car lights are flashing out there." And without missing a beat, Lee just looked up and was like, "Yeah, that happens all the time. Electronics go crazy all the time out there." And he didn't think anything of it. And he went on talking about the photos, and so we all continued to look at the photos. And then we took a break, and I went out to my car, and my car lights were flashing. And then they continued to do that for the rest of the night. And even after we left there and went back into town, they still were flashing through the rest of the night when my car was not even on.
Wow.
My truck last week was in the shed. It was just sitting in the shed, and I was the keys were in it, and I was going to load hay, and all of a sudden the lights flashed and was sitting in my barn. That was we'll try 2 weeks ago now, and there's been other times the car's been out there, my truck's been out there, and I'll be away from it during even the daytime, and I'll look over and the lights start flashing, and I've had many, my SD cards have been messed up, and there was that flashing was one of the reasons why there was a guy and his girlfriend were out there, and they were walking, and their car started flashing, and then they saw a black figure. He said the size of a Volkswagen bus come between them and the car.
Oh my gosh.
So they could see it. They could see it through, with the lights flashing. They could see it, and so that was what caused them to.
Yeah, I'd say.
They got their car, and they were up in my barn saying, "Oh, we're gonna go.
Okay. Wow. So Lee, I gotta tell you, I just and this follows me too, because I had concerts with my jazz quartet in South Carolina this last weekend, and people would come up to me and say, "Hey, we're really enjoying the paranormal stuff you guys are doing." And I always tell them every story. I say, "Well, we were just in Wisconsin." And without me saying anything, this one guy goes, "Oh yeah, there's a lot of vortexes out there." And I'm like, so he called them vortexes, but we talked about portals, and and Lee, we talked about that too. But it's very well known out there, and it's just and it brings a smile to me, because it's like, what we're doing in the paranormal world is really connecting with people, on many, many different levels.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, I do have a question, Lee. Now, there are many photographs that you keep pretty close to the vest, and I wonder if you can give us without spilling the beans, can you give us a general idea? I mean, I imagine these must be pretty amazing photographs. What kinds of things have you held back? I mean, what are they more than we could possibly handle?
I think I showed them to you. I mean, but I didn't let anybody at the conference take pictures, but certainly the one where the creature materializes right in front of my camera in this that's a phenomenal photograph, or set of pictures. I mean, there's nothing there, then there's a translucent black figure there, then there's a solid black figure there, so
wow,
that just materializes. And of course then there's the UFO with a doorway where there's a figure standing in the doorway with a total UFO. So that, and he's doesn't have the right proportions to a human, and so that's pretty phenomenal. And certainly, I mean, the one where the creature is walking across my field, and
yeah,
I mean, it's got the long legs, and the body is not. I don't know what that is, but that's a very unusual set of photographs. And of course, then the creature where I have his head and shoulders, and then there's UFOs, some pods that are flying in that vicinity at the same time. And I think that's a very special picture too, to show a relationship between the cryptids and the and UFOs, because those pods are absolutely flying in that area at the same time that the cryptid is there, and they're not there before and they're not there afterwards. So I think there's a strong relationship, and the other people have indicated that. But I have photos. I feel I have photos that demonstrate that feature.
there are some
Absolutely.
dogman researchers that are just not going to like that.
Well,
But
yeah.
you've got the proof there. Do you know if this has anybody in that area experienced missing time? I haven't.
Well,
Maybe.
I have twice now. I have twice. So
Wow.
um, yeah.
Have you had any inkling to try to recover those memories?
Well, I mean,
I don't know that I would, Lee. I don't. If I was sure I had missing time and somebody said you should go to a hypnotherapist, I'd say no.
Can you
Well,
say how much time was missing?
well, I don't. One of the sessions after I had seen the orangish red eye, luminous red eyes, what I feel I did is I drove down the road about a half mile, pulled into a farmer's driveway, backed out, and came back and shined my lights out in the field to see if I could see any more of the red eyes. And and then I came into my barn and drove to the end of my barn and called. I had to call somebody. It was 10:30 when I pulled out of my farm to go to Walmart, and so I feel I would have been back in my shed, 10:50,
Right.
20 minutes or so, and I had to call somebody. I just really wanted to to have reiterate the experience immediately, and I only had my brother Fred to call. And I don't know if that was in your session when I said I called Fred, and I and told him the story, and I felt I called him, before 11, and both he and my sister-in-law said I called after midnight.
Oh, wow.
Uh, so uh, so I have no idea where I was for an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I mean, I did not know there was a discrepancy there until that was in May. And then I think during the holiday season, we had a get together, and I was talking. I apologized for calling them so late, like 11 o'clock. And 11, it was after midnight. I go, it wasn't after midnight. I called you like 11. And then I tried to get, I have Metro service, and I tried to go back to May to get my phone calls, and they don't keep those. They only keep them for 30 days.
Oh.
I said, I see on TV where they go back years. He goes, yeah, well, that's no, we have all those phone calls are erased, or we don't have any. We don't keep all those records, only for 30 days. So I couldn't go back to see what I did call. But of course, then that night I became very ill too, and that was another story. So,
Interesting.
So what I have the unanswerable question. What the hell is going on? I mean, we've got some kind of a animal that acts like an animal. It howls in the night. It eats roadkill. It messes with it carries deer around or makes them disappear somehow. Yet there's some kind of a technology that would seem to be beyond them that is cloaking them or hiding them somehow. And on the other hand, we have something that appears to be a real technology. There's real physical objects, craft UFOs or something. And plus you have the bizarre light phenomena, the mist, the portals or whatever they might really be. I can't, it's just so hard to, I thought maybe this is sort of a grand central station where, some people say the air is thin between dimensions, and maybe a lot of these things are going on and they're not aware of each other. But I just, I'm at a loss to try and explain this in any way. So Lee, I expect you to give us all the answers.
No, yeah. Well, my pat answer is you're looking at the same pictures that I'm looking at. So I have no other answers other than what's in my pictures. And yeah, the phenomenon of the of intelligence or electronic availability that goes on out there. I mean, that my Moultrie camera is a good working camera, and the crew, Eric and Dominic and Ellen, were right in front of it for half hour, 45 minutes, or as long as they were out there. And that camera quit working at 5:04, I believe, and did not work again until 7 o'clock the next morning. It took
Wow.
no pictures of them out there, as this whole was just shut off. It took no pictures of that night. And yet here is, 4 individuals and ATVs and a truck, and right in front of the camera. I should have had, many pictures of them.
Right.
And that camera did not work. And that happens often. I mean, there'll be, an orb will come, or a UFO will come, and then the camera will just take one picture and then stop working. But
it's not like it's broken, because it'll start working again, right?
That's correct. That's right. Mm-hmm. And I've had SD cards that have been all messed up, and there's been like JPEG files, and then there's KPEG files, and then there's KPC files, and I called, that was a stealth camera, and I called them and I sent them a picture of what the SD card looked like in their camera, and they said that was not from their camera. I said it was. In fact, it was the one that came with the camera I bought. And I said, it's your guys' SD card. And they'll no, our camera cannot make those files, those older KPEG files and stuff. They're from the 90s. And I go, well, he's the engineer from Stealth Camera said, well, somebody came, took the SD card out of your camera and put it into a computer, and they altered it.
And put it back in your camera.
They put it back in my camera. And that was February of 2021. And there was snow, and the only prints, there was no new prints. The only prints going up to the camera was mine when I put the camera out. So unless that did not happen, but some technology, the technology which is exhibited out there is phenomenal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's astounding. I mean, the lack of scientific curiosity from the establishment. I mean, you've got literally have a laboratory on this small piece of land of the unexplained. I mean, and this goes right to the heart of probably existence and what we're all about. Yet, which it takes investigators like us, our curiosity, and willing to try to stay out there for 15 or 20 minutes without running. And but it's amazing that this place exists.
yeah, I'm very knowledgeable of the scientific world, and I talked to the quantum physicist at University of Wisconsin. I've talked to a quantum physicist from out in California, and I said, do you want to see infrared orbs? And he goes, can I have infrared orbs out in my field? And they go, no. I said, do you want to see videos of them? They go, no, because then I got to I got to work with the camera and find out what's wrong with the camera. And I go, well, I bought two cameras, and they both exhibit the same qualities of infrared orbs. And one guy, he said, came around and said, well, I'm not going to get a grant for that. And that's the problem with the scientific world, is that and my brother Arn was a scientist, and the grants are what control and what give them the direction what to pursue, because the government will give them a grant. And he said, I'll never get a grant to study your field, or to study things that have gone on out there. And I have my projects I'm working on now, and that was directly from a University of Wisconsin quantum physicist, and I understand that. They the poor guy, and there was a scientist, or one of the scientists at University of New Mexico, and he brought in just a speaker for a conference on Bigfoot, and it was a very well attended conference on campus. And when the uh, board of directors found out that he had done that, they made him pay for the speaker and for the conference. They didn't want the university to even be associated with that. And that's the scientific world, from the standpoint that they need to have some type of grant, or some type of direction, some type of ability to study it. What I would like is to have some university grant a status to a PhD student, and
Right.
have them continue with like a 2-3 year. I worked on my master's degree for 2 years, and so that would not be that would be a normal project, but some university is going to have to certify that as a PhD thesis. So
Yeah.
that would be the ideal situation for me, what I would like to see.
I would think that with that hair sample, or the photo of the hair sample that you had, that would be biologically something that maybe a university could get behind, to come out and see, what kind of species is existing.
I have the hair sample. I talked to the University of Wisconsin Madison to see if they could do a DNA sample on it, or do the sample. And first of all, it was $2,000, and they said, we really don't work in that area. What we work in is, you tell us that you have a mountain lion, and then we will do the DNA sampling on that, and we can tell you if it came from Canada, or from the Wyoming area, or is it moving through, or is it they can give you some history of that particular animal. He said, we don't we don't run hair samples of unknown animals. And I said, well, it's a known animal. It's the beast of Bray Road. So now can you do it? And then he just laughed. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely frustrating, for sure. I can sympathize with you, Lee, on there. That's definitely, even with all the UFO declassifications coming out now, it's the same thing. It's like, the world should be on fire with these things, but their apathy is at an all-time high.
Right.
It's sort of built in. It's like at the end of all the newscasts, they'll have this silly little the guy that saw the UFO in his tinfoil hat or whatever. It's
Right.
still, even though the government has actually admitted, yeah, we don't know what they are, which I thought they would never do. It still is like that. So I think we should probably start to wrap up. I hope, Lee, I hope you'll come back sometime.
It's been very enjoyable. Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. I know that I
you have
understand your. Go ahead.
You have very good group to talk with here. Very good.
Well, absolutely.
Dominic and Ellen, very good.
Thanks, Lee.
And I want to thank them for actually facilitating the show. And before we go, anybody Brandy or anybody from Bucks County, if you want to talk about something else or ask Lee some other questions as we start to wind down.
I have one question. Did you ever talk to any member of an Indian tribe regarding the footprints? Because I know the area is just saturated with Indian burial mounds. And it's very famous, in fact, South Central Wisconsin for burial mounds. Have you ever spoken to, like the Indians seem to have a copacetic arrangement with Bigfoot. Maybe they have the same with Beast of Bray Road. Have you ever thought
about that? I mean, the Potawatomi were here, the Fox were here, in Elkhorn area.
Mm-hmm.
The burial grounds are, spread throughout all southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, western Illinois. I know there's a large number of them out there. I've been I'm 156 Cherokee, and I'm proud of it. But my great-great-great-grandmother was a Cherokee Indian. And I have many artifacts. In fact, the one large rock that I have in front of my barn is a Native American artifact. And so, and I found some artifacts in my field, some arrowheads. So that's not uncommon. But as far as my field or that immediate area, there's one over on, there's a burial mound or a mound. It's not necessarily a mound on Bray Road, but I have not talked with any of the Native Americans. There really is the Potawatomis or the Fox, which was, the last groups in this area. There really isn't any center for them that I know of to talk to them. I've not talked with them, no.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks.
And Lee, as we wrap up, is there anything, any words of wisdom you'd like to leave us with? If you use the money, I purchased probably 10 cameras, and if I'd have bought some fishing poles and sitting down on the pier, no. The words of pursue it. I mean, there's I can stand on my front part of my farm, and I can point to 5-6 farms of people that have seen it. If everybody would study it, if everybody would, talk about it and bring it to light, and it exists, and pursue it, and have, with our availability of cameras now, I know it's very difficult, but I did get pictures of it, May 11th, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, I would not have had a camera with me, but now people have cameras. So, be aware of it and try to document it when you see it or when you have experiences with it. So, and as elusive as this is, it does seem to make mistakes. I mean, occasionally you do get a photograph of it or part of it.
Yes, I have quite a number actually of parts of it, or as far a distance from the camera. And I mean, I should have dozens and dozens, should be 10, 15 feet from the camera, picking up a deer and carrying it away, or cutting off the front quarter, or dropping it, or pick it up and drop it between trees. But I think it allows you to see it when it wants to. I mean,
exactly.
Sometimes, like you said, it's happening right next to you, and you never saw it, but the camera picked it up. So,
and that's true too. I mean, I think it could be, mathematics says there's multi-universes, and it could be, right next to us in another universe, and we will not be able to see it. Yes, absolutely.
Right. So, Bucks County, any parting words? And please tell us how people can contact you and see your YouTube videos.
Well, the parting words are, Lee, I got to tell you, and it was just so amazing to work with you, and I can't wait to work with you again. And Fred, and you guys are just phenomenal people, and just really, really appreciate you a lot. And just be safe, be safe out there. And the other thing is, I want to explore a little bit of this missing time situation, because that's really intrigued me tonight from what we just talked about. And so we should definitely talk about that. And then as far as people could see us, they could find us on right now immediately. They could find us on our Facebook page. It's Bucks County Paranormal Investigations on Facebook, and then our YouTube channel, Bucks County Paranormal Investigations, and then of course we're on Amazon Fire TV and Roku and Apple TV and all the streaming services. But they have to just type in Princeton Television, add that channel to their device, and they'll be able to see our show. Yeah, we're looking forward to coming back.
I'm looking forward to working with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, you guys, absolutely.
And if
Definitely, I'm looking forward to eating a nice big steak.
Okay. Yeah.
well, the thing is, if people want to see some of these photographs, they should think about coming to the second Beast of Bray Road conference in April. Donna Fink is running it. Check out her Facebook page. Lee, you're going to have another session there where people can see your photographs in your barn. Is that right?
Yeah. It sounds like it's going to be a 3-day affair, and sounds like Buck County, you guys are going to have the town hall, which I'll come to and try to get people to come to, and then Friday, whoever, the sessions, I'll schedule the sessions whenever people want to schedule, get like 20 people at a time, and then sounds like Saturday would be the conference. So yes, so come on Friday, and I'll show you some more different pictures, and other phenomena that's occurred on my farm.
Yeah, imagine the photographs you're going to have in another several months.
I got the craziest video October 8th that I think the craziest video I ever have. I got it October 8th.
Can you give us a hint? Just a hint.
That was on my birthday.
Yeah.
Well, there was sure, you got time?
Yeah.
There was a crew that came from Denver. They got there October 8th as a Friday, and they went out about 8 o'clock. And I thought, I'll walk out. I'll take my camera, my scope, my night vision infrared camera, and I'll see if I see any orbs. And when you guys were out there, I did that same thing, and I saw 4 or 5 orbs through my night vision camera. You guys didn't happen to see them, but I did see them that night. So I walked out, and it was I knew they were out in the field. In fact, they were right by the wetland. I couldn't see them. They were over that little mound, the little hill there, and their car was down in there. But I knew they were there. And there was a phenomenal. I don't even know how to explain it. Over on the northwest part of my property and on the neighbor's cornfield, it appeared to be a large fire. I mean, huge fire. But was only an infrared. I could send you the video. I would send that to you because I have no idea what that is. And
that'd be neat.
It looked like a huge fire.
Definitely.
Whoa.
It was, but it wasn't a fire. There was a couple orbs that came through. There was an orb that stayed by there, and then there was orbs that came through, and there was a stationary object that wasn't burning, or I mean, the field never burned. I mean, there was no fire. I went out there the next day, and there was no, it looked like a barn fire, but there was nothing there, and I could not see it with my eye. It was only in the infrared world, and the production crew from Denver, they were out there, and I asked them, did you see anything? I showed them the video the next day, and they go, whoa. I said, you guys were right here, and no, we didn't. There's nothing. We saw nothing like that. So here's a huge. Yeah, I'll send it to Eric, and
that'd be great.
That was October 8th.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to check it out.
And I got some real crazy pictures last week of some. I don't know what it is on my camera. So,
wow, man.
Yeah, so it continued, and when I was taking pictures of that light, or the little fire, I'll call it, but it's not fire, I was confused. I knew I was confused. I couldn't get my camera to work. I think I lost about a half hour of time there because I got back in the barn, and it was like, it was 9:30, and I go, well, I wasn't out there that long. What's happened there? And I just I had to focus and say, okay, I got to get a video of this. I have to get a video of this. And I just had to focus. I knew I was being just confused or I was being, messed with, because it took me all the effort I had to get the camera to work and to get this video I'll send you guys. So
Wow.
Well, great.
Wow, great.
That will be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a link.
Send it to us. Don't send it to Steve. We like to keep Steve in the dark.
Yeah, I'll bet I can stay on Lee's property at night longer than you can.
That's a bet. I'm packing snacks. I'll be good.
There you go.
Well, listen, thank you, everybody, to the entire Bucks County team. Thank
You're
you guys so much. You added so much to the show. And Lee, I appreciate you being here. I know how it's difficult for all of us to try to convey. I mean, you're there, but people can't appreciate those images unless they can see them.
Right.
And so it's a real task to try and convey the bizarre nature and the variety. And it's just like Eric said, we're blown away by them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So now, Brandy, I don't know if you're still here or not. You are? Okay. I know Brandy has to exit stage left or right, one of the two. So we'll wrap it up right now. Again, thank you, everybody. Everybody sit tight. I'll do my closeout.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Lee, so much. The High Strangeness Factor was created by Steve Ward and Andy Mercer and is copyrighted by the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I want to thank our fearless leaders, Irene Allen Block and Mark Johnson. Also, Andy Mercer, who does double duty as regular co-host and producer, and Brian Zeller composed the music for the show. I can also be heard on Mac Maloney's Military X-Files as a correspondent every week, and on this same and other networks. And I am Steve Ward, your humble host here on the High Strangeness Factor, a displaced Yank on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. Thank you for listening. I will see you all again in a fortnight. Take care.